Hello YouTube, Jim Baker here. I'm making this video to review who has to file Form 5471. What is it? I'm going to talk about the form. And it's pretty simple. If you are a U.S. person, a U.S. citizen, or a green card holder, and you have a foreign corporation, ownership of a foreign corporation, and this is a non-U.S. corporation, and then you have to file this form if you meet one of the criteria. So we're going to go to the form instructions and look at the criteria. So the form instructions are the best place to go to look over all this stuff. So what's new? There's a lot of new things to this form. Who must file this form? That's the question. Category of filers. So a U.S. shareholder of a foreign corp is a section 960 blah 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 blah. So for purpose of this, a U.S. shareholder is a person who owns 10% or more of the stock, and I think it's for only for corporations. So this is only for a CFC of a foreign corporation. So if someone owns, if a U.S. person owns more than 50%, or if a corporation owns stock of a U.S. corporation owns stock of a foreign corporation, at least 10%, then you're a Category 1 filer. I know it's very complicated, but I'm trying to simplify it a little bit. A Category 2 filer is someone who basically a citizen or resident, and the Category 3 is the same requirements more or less, but it's for directors. No, I think this one's for directors, and this is for citizens or residents. If you're a director or a citizen or a resident of the U.S. and you bought or sold at least 10% of your stock in the year, then that would be 2 or 3, or acquired 10% of the stock, then you're one of these categories of filers. And basically the only difference is one's just a regular owner and one is a director. So if you just became a U.S. person and you have a corp, 20% of a corp, you'd be a Category 2 filer, because when you just gain your residency, then you still have a filing requirement as if you acquired the stock in that year. And I don't think the same applies if you file a final return, because there's no change. You're just becoming a non-resident. But when on the first year, it usually qualifies as a Category 2 or 3 filer. So the Category 4 and 5 filers are basically you have to own more than 50%. So if you own 50% of the company, it's a Category 4 or 5 filer. And actually, you issue own stock of a CFC. So when a foreign corporation has if let's say if U.S. persons own at least 50% of the stock, 51%. So if you and your friend each own 20% and you're both U.S. citizens, then you also have to file this form, because the company is a controlled foreign corporation, a CFC. So it's owned more than 50% by U.S. people. It doesn't have to be the same person. So that's a Category 5 filer. There's some exceptions and there's a lot of rules and caveats and things, but that's the main thing. So a corp that owns 10%, or a person that is or if you own more than 50%, basically as a person, Category 1. Category 2, if you became a U.S. person with a foreign corp, or you bought stock or disposed of stock or received any kind of stock or disposed of any stock in any way of more than 10% of the stock or the voting or value of power outstanding, then you're a Category 2 or 3 filer. And Category 4 and 5 are basically if the company is a CFC and you own more than 50%. So that's who has to file. And then what you have to file is based on here. So this is the categories, and these are all the different schedules. So basically, if you're a Category 4 filer, you have to file everything. Schedule O is just about buying or selling the stock and details of that transaction. So that's why only Category 2 and 3 filers need it. And yeah, I mean, this goes over everything. Schedule A is about ownership of the stock. I think B is more ownership of the stock information, and C and F, I think, are the income statements. So you have to report your balance sheet, your income statement, answer a ton of questions, and then do a lot of other schedules. So it's a pretty complicated form, but knowing if you have to file and then knowing what has to be included is probably the most important part of completing this form, because if you don't have this information or know this information, you're going to do it completely wrong. At least if you can figure out what category you are, then you'll at least know what parts of the form you need to complete. So one last thing, this Form 5472, we'll see it right here. This is usually attached. This usually isn't filed on its own. It's attached to the corporate or personal income tax return. You have to report all kinds of information. So the name of the company. Actually, this is the name of the person filing the return. So it'd be you or your corporation. This is the name of the company. The stock, more about the shareholders, income statement, balance sheet, a lot of questions. And there could be, and then that's the last of the main form, Schedule I. But you can see like there are other schedules after I that we still have J, M, O, and P, which are all new schedules. So it's complicated. There's a lot to do. I hope this is a good overview and that I didn't talk too fast. Please like, subscribe if you thought it was useful, and please contact us. Email us at support@mbtaxconsultants.com if you have to file this form and you don't want to do it yourself. Oh, I guess the last point is also, I forgot to say, if you file this late or incorrectly, the IRS can penalize you $25,000. So that's a huge motivation for seeking professional help in doing this form. But now, hopefully, this video lets you know how you can know if you're actually required to file the form or not. Okay, thanks.